Welcome to Reborn Report. I'm Don Pfeiffer, and DJ's behind the camera. Today we're going to do a little bit of a live remote, something we've never done before, and give you a little tour of my basement fish room. Come on in. This is a hobby that I started a couple years ago, and we just got the room finished. And I'm raising tropical fish, mostly cichlids, and I'm focusing mostly on peacock cichlids. And we'll give you a little tour of how we have our tank set up and what we're doing here. So come on in. You know, one thing I like about God is nature. And God is an amazing God, and He gives us amazing things. And one of the interests I have is tropical fish. And I've been gifted with the ability to have this room. It's just a small 12 by 12 room in my basement that I built the walls and insulated the walls. As you can see by looking around, it's just a rough construction, but I got it all plumbed in. I have, let me give you a little setup, an idea of my setup here. These are 75-gallon tanks along this wall with peacock cichlids in it. These are yellow Benga sunshine peacocks. The next one down are dragon blood peacocks. The one on the end is a blue fire peacock. And this one coming out from the wall is an OB, orange blotch peacock. And you'll notice, I don't know if you notice it or not, but I have one male and 3 females in each tank. These are breeder setups, and you might see some babies in them. Like here's a baby right here. And they're very good with their babies. They don't bother their babies. They don't seem to eat their babies. I have these small tanks here that I set up that I was going to use, that I'll use to raise the fry in. And typically what a lot of people will do is take the mothers out there, they brood their babies, they lay eggs, and then they hold the eggs in their mouth until the babies are born. And then they'll spit the babies out of their mouth. And typically what a lot of people will do, either strip the eggs or they'll let the mothers take the mother out of the tank before she spits her babies, and they'll put them in their own tank. Let her spit the babies in a small tank, and then they can introduce the parent back into the main breeding tank. But I'm not a commercial, raising fish commercially, although I do plan eventually with a friend of mine to start a little side business. But right now I'm just raising them for my own enjoyment and learning about them. And the mothers have spit the babies in the tanks. Now obviously, if you look on that tank on the end down there, there's a couple dozen fry swimming around in that tank. And some of them are about a month old, and some of them are just a few days old. And I will eventually take them out and put them in their own tank and raise them up to sellable size. But for now, I'm enjoying them. The parents don't seem to mind them, and the babies are learning. I think they learn from their parents. So they don't seem to be afraid of their parents, and they're eating well and they're growing well. So for now, I'm leaving them in the tank. But the plan is to take them out, and because they will continue to breed. So if you're ever interested in peacock cichlids, which are my favorite cichlid, I have some others, but right now I want to talk about the peacocks. You got to keep at least 3 females per 1 male, because if you notice, the male, which is the bright colored one, this this guy, we call him Aaron Rodgers. We name all of our males after a football player because we're big football fans. This one, the bright orange one in this tank, we call him Tom Brady. He's the male, and notice the females are much duller in color. And in this guy, our favorite football player, he's Josh Allen. He's blue and yellow, or blue and red, and he's a beautiful fish. Beautiful top fin, and you can tell the females are they're smaller, and they're just not as colorful. So it's the males that everybody will want to buy. If you were going to set up an aquarium and just put a half a dozen or 8 or 10 males in a 75-gallon tank, that would be stunning. Mix the colors, and you could have some really cool fish. But if you're going to have all males, then you can't have any females in there, because they will fight. But 3 females can produce hundreds and hundreds of babies. So you really don't need to keep more than that. As you can see, there's a couple dozen babies in this tank already. Over here, this guy is the orange OB peacock. It's called orange blotch. He's got purple and pink and black. And the females, again, they have a little bit of color, but not anywhere near the color he has. And they had spawned too, but I've only seen a few babies in there. So those are my peacocks. There's hundreds of different species of color variations of the peacock cichlid, and I just find that fish fascinating. Now over here, DJ, I have some big giant, well, they're not giant, but they're getting pretty big, purple mystery snails. I am trying to raise and breed them. There's about 8 or 10 of them in that 10-gallon tank. I have another 10-gallon tank below that will house some, and I'm waiting for them to mate. They haven't mated yet, but I'm just growing them up at this time. Over here, in the tank behind you, these will be my tanks for my fries. I have some 20-gallon tanks along the bottom too that I'll raise the fry in. There's nothing in them right now. And over here, I have some rusty cichlids. They're an Mbuna. They're also from Africa, like the peacocks, but they're an Mbuna and not a peacock. And what I like about them is Mbuna cichlids are much more aggressive. And I'll show you some other larger Mbunas that I have. But the rusty cichlids, they don't look like they have a lot of color, but they're young fish, and they will get purple stripes on their body. They're really, really pretty as they get mature. And they're very peaceful as far as Mbuna cichlids go. So I'm hoping to breed them as well. If you see this one in the front here, oh, he just took off. But he does have purple starting on his body. That one in the back there. Now there's some algae growing on the glass, so it's a little hard to see it. I haven't cleaned the algae off yet, but they're starting to get some color in their bodies. This guy right here, if he'll turn, you can see blue and purple starting on his body. But my favorite fish, although I probably will spend most of my time raising the peacock cichlids, one of my favorite fish that I own are these frontosas. This is called the black widow frontosa. They get quite large. They get about 12 inches versus my peacocks only get to about 6 inches. This is a black widow frontosa. There's different variants of them, but I just think they're striking looking. And they're slow growing, and they take a long time before they breed. And this is just an experiment for me with them.
Aren't they rare?
They're fairly rare. They've been around the hobby for a long time, but not a lot of people will keep them because they do get quite large. So I'm going to have to eventually move them into a bigger tank, and I don't know if I can talk your mother, my wife, into allowing me to put. These are mostly 75-gallon tanks. These frontosas, there's 4 of them in there. These tanks on this side of the room are 65-gallon tanks. The tanks along the bottom are 20-gallon tanks, and my fry tanks are 10-gallon tanks. But this is only a 12 by 12 room, so I'm very limited with space. Again, this is the other side of the OB peacock cichlid, and if he comes out, you can see a better picture of him. Another thing I want to talk to you about, these aren't peacocks in this tank. This is one of my few Central American fish. This is we call this guy Rocky because we had to put a divider in the tank because he was kind of aggressive. These are called Honduran red points, and they're from Central South America region. And it's a fish that I'm attracted to. I really like their personality. So it's kind of an experiment with me. I don't know if I'm going to breed these or not, but we'll see how it goes. But what I'd like to show you is how you notice I have a planter above every tank with golden pothos growing out of it. And these planters, it's just a very cheap windowsill plastic planter. And I have a little pump. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's hidden in behind the power filter. It's wrapped up in a sponge in the back. And that pump, small little pump, is hanging in the tank. It's pumping water up through this black hose, and then it's coming out inside the tank, inside this filter. About the size of my baby finger. And it's running through these aquaponic stones. It's almost like a real light, hollow, porous clay stone that's filled in this tray. And I have sponges on it to kind of filter it. And the roots, these are just starter plants that I bought at Walmart, Home Depot. I broke them apart, cleaned all the dirt off of them, and stuck them down into that water. And so the water is being pumped through here, and then it comes off this other side. I have it coming through this other side with a bulkhead, and it runs back inside my tank. So I'm constantly filtering water from my aquarium up through this box, and it's feeding the fish waste is actually feeding the plants. So the plants are a form of filtration. It's a type of aquaponics, and it's an extra filter on my tanks to help keep them clean and keep my fish healthy water. And they're growing. They're doing very well. But this setup has only been since this summer. What is it? It's November. So it's not even been 6 months. And there was just some baby shoots that I started in those planters. And in 6 months' time, it's grown that much. So not all plants can grow in water, but golden pothos is one that is known in the aquarium hobby to grow in the water. A lot of people will take a clipping and they'll stick it right inside like their power filter. Like this is a hang on the back power filter. I put them on the sides of my aquarium and not on the back. I run 2 of them on each aquarium on the sides. And a lot of people will stick a slip of the golden pothos right inside there, let their roots, or they'll hang it inside an opening and let the roots grow down in the tank. But for me, it was just easier and more convenient to put them in a tray. That way I can clean my tank, I can work in my tank, and I'm not dealing with the roots of the plants or the plants themselves in my tank. A lot of the fish that I raise would just tear up the plants. The plants you see in my tank now are all artificial plants because they're easier to take care of, easier to maintain. If I was raising fish for the sole purpose of breeding, I probably would have bare tanks. But I like to give my fish places to hide. I think they do better. Obviously, they breed better when they have places to hide, places for the babies to hide in. And it does make maintenance a little harder. Like I said, if your sole purpose is just for breeding, you wouldn't do all this. But this is my man cave. I come down here. This is where I get a lot of inspiration for Reborn Report podcast. I sit down here with the Bible and meditate on God's Word and look at my fish. And some of you might think that's crazy, but it helps me relax and helps me see the beauty of God and the love of God, and I see it in the fish. So I just wanted to share this with you. I'll probably do more specific podcasts on how everything operates, but right now I just wanted to give you an overall view. DJ, let's go upstairs because I have 5 tanks upstairs and I want to show the people the tanks that I have outside of my fish room that my wife is graciously kind enough to let me have in her dining room and living room. Okay? Let's
take a trip upstairs.
Okay, so this is the first tank. It's in my dining room. Notice there is nothing, no plants, no live plants in this tank. I just didn't think my wife would like the look of the box and everything. But I just
What is that above the tank?
Well, that's a walleye that I caught over to Chautauqua Lake a few years back, and I had it mounted. Pretty nice sized walleye for Chautauqua Lake. And the funny thing is, I caught that on 4-pound test with a tiny little jig. So I was very lucky to even land that fish.
What's in its mouth?
That's a lure that my grandson made and stuck it in his mouth. That's not the lure I caught it on.
Connor, we had him on our podcast.
Yeah, Connor was on the
fishing
podcast.
lures.
Yeah.
That's one of his lures.
That's one of his lures, so he stuck it in there. But these are really nice fish. These are what I call these are called rainbow cichlids. They have spawned 3 different times for me.
What happened to their babies?
They get eaten. They will eat their babies if you don't take them out. The babies will last about a week. Unlike the peacocks, which don't eat their babies, these will eat their babies if you don't take them out. And I wasn't ready to raise. They have a lot. The peacocks will have 20 or 30 babies. These will have 200 or 300. And they're not mouth brooders. They lay their eggs and their eggs hatch. And they're good parents for about a week. And I bet if I just had 1 male and 1 female in there, they might not eat them. But there's 2 males and 2 females in here. And so the ones that are spawning guard them, and the ones that aren't spawning eat them. So eventually I'll raise some of them because they're beautiful fish. I like their personality, and it's one of my favorites. Okay, over here I have a 90-gallon tank. And again, the same setup with my sponge filters inside and 2 power filters on each end. One thing I didn't talk about is I made overflows on my tank. I made overflows that go down into the basement and drain into my fish room, into the wash tub in my fish room. So I could just turn on a valve and drain my tank down. I do about a 50% water change every 2 weeks. Depending on how high the nitrate level is. So this makes a really easy way to drain your tanks down.
What fish are in this tank?
Okay, in this tank are sevrums. There's 2 different types of sevrums. They get quite large. They'll get to about the size of, everybody knows what a sunfish is. And they get about the size of a small sunfish, about 6-8 inches in diameter. These are juvenile fish. They're a little timid.
What's this here?
Oh, hiding in the cave, that is a super red pleco, bristle-nosed pleco. If you get a close-up on him, you'll see he's got whiskers. There's 2 of them in the tank, and 2 male plecos in there. They will breed, but I don't have a female in this tank. And my purpose of them is just to clean the bottom. But I'm hoping to breed these. Those are red spotted sevrums. There's also a red shoulder sevrum. He's hiding. He's not going to come out and be friendly to the camera, but he's different colored. He's more green and has some blue and some red on him. But there's 2 of them in the tank too, but they're hiding. Oh, there's one. There's a small one right there. I don't know if you can get a picture of him. He's hiding in the back. He's the small one. There's a bigger one in the tank as well. I'm hoping to breed that. They get a lot more color on them as they get older. But this is a 90-gallon tank. Now our last 2 tanks I showed you were in our dining room. This tank is in the living room next to my lounge chair. And these aren't a fish that I am going to breed per se, but I love their activity. And I love them having next to my chair as I sit here at night and just watch them. These are rainbow fish. And there's a variety of colors in here. There's yellow rainbows. There's different ones, all different color rainbows, different species. They're all rainbow fish, just different color variants. And there's about 10 of them in this. This is a 40-gallon tank. This tank all has live plants in it. Most of my other tanks, there's artificial plants. These are live plants. There's algae growing on the glass, which I have to scrape off occasionally. Again, I have some of those big mystery snails in there. And I have a fish that I really like. There's 2 of these in there. And these are algae eaters, Siamese algae eaters. And they do an awesome job at eating algae, keeping my algae down. But this tank has only been set up for 6 months, so these plants are all young. It's a lot more work when you have live plants in your tank. You can't clean it as easily as plastic plants, because plastic plants, you can take them out and rinse them off and put them back. These, they root down into the substrate, so you really don't want to move them, so you really even can't clean your gravel too well. But again, plants in your tank or above the tank, like I have downstairs, is great filtration. So these are a favorite fish I just love to watch. I doubt that I'm going to breed these. In the bottom tank, this is a tank that I just set up recently, and it's got some neon rainbow fish. These are young babies, and I don't know if you can get a good picture of them, DJ, but they almost have a fluorescent shine to them, and as they get bigger, they will have a lot more color. A lot of these fish, when they're young, aren't very colorful, but as they mature, they get more colorful. And you can see the couple of them there, like that one in the front there. It's got a red tail. That's a male. The females have a yellow tail. And there's 6 females and 3 males in there. Again, you got to keep more females than males. But I'm hoping to breed them when they get bigger. And like I said, they're young, way too young to breed. Again, I have some mystery snails in here. I love the mystery snails. And they had bred once. They go up and lay their eggs on the bottom of the lid and in a little cocoon, and then the babies eat their way out of that cocoon and drop down into the water.
What else do you have in this tank?
Oh, there was a spawn of the algae eaters. There's a white one right there. I don't know if you can catch it.
Where?
That's a male. He's hiding in that log.
I don't see him.
Right? Can you get? It's just his tail hanging out. That's a male. Bristlenose pleco. He's hiding in there. There's 2 females in there. There's a white female and a red female, and they spawned. And there's some babies swimming around in this tank. They're hard to see. They hide really, really well. So, and they're really small. But I wasn't planning on them breeding. They crossbred with this big white one, and I didn't think they would because the other ones are small. But they did, and so I got babies in there. But Connor, my grandson, says he wants them for his tank. So as I grow them up a little bigger, I'll take them out and give them to Connor. This is the last tank that I have in the living room, the other end of the living room. This is a firemouth cichlid. I really like this fish. You can see him flaring out his gills at me. It's kind of a defense mechanism. This is a big male here. That's a female right behind him, that smaller one. And look how he flares out his gills. He's really, really cool. And if the camera doesn't do him justice, but his body is basically brownish green, but he's got blue, really pretty blue and red fins.
The camera's doing him justice right now.
You get a good picture of him. He's a beautiful fish, and he's got a great personality. And they have spawned for me. And again, I didn't take out the fry. They have a lot of fry, and they're egg layers as well, and not mouth brooders. So they lay them, and they have the fry are real small. So I'll have to turkey baster them out and take them downstairs in the tank and raise the fry separately. Again, if I only had the male and female there, they may live. But because I have other ones which are now hiding, I don't know where there's 3 other ones in there. They're hiding right now because I think these 2 are getting ready to spawn again. And when they get ready to spawn, they chase the other ones away. So I think they're getting ready to spawn again. So this time I may take some out. Again, there's another Picosimus on the bottom of that filter. The black one. See that one?
Yep.
Algae eater. And there's a big white one on the back side of this. You can see him over in the corner. It's on the back side of the heater. But here's an example of when I said I had these. If you look up here, here's that same plant, the golden pothos, and those aren't in the planter. But what I did is I just have them hanging there, and the roots hang down in the water. That's all the root system for that one branch. And when I put it in, it was real small, and it's grown that big. And the fish love it. They hide in it, and of course, algae grows on it, and some people wouldn't like the look of it, but I think it looks really cool hanging in the tank, and the fish seem to really love it. Again, I use the 2 power filters on the sides and 2 sponge filters in the middle. But there's my tanks. I just wanted to share that with you. And I'm going to do some more videos on more details of my fish room and how everything is set up and how I take care of them. But that's going to be more involved for somebody who's maybe into fish. But I just wanted to give our general audience a picture of one of my favorite hobbies, and what's inspiration to me and God's Word, and where I get a lot of my inspiration from is from my fish in my fish room. So we're back in the fish room. DJ's here with me. He's been filming this the whole time. Thanks for joining us on Reborn Report. I know we didn't talk about God and His Word too much today, but I wanted to give you a little tour of my hobby in the fish room, and maybe someday we'll shoot a regular video for Reborn Report.
Yeah, if we can figure out the audio.
Yeah, because we're just doing this with his camera, so it's probably not like quality of our regular setup. So we might not shoot another video for a couple of weeks, but we'll be back with regular content in a couple of weeks. DJ's taking a trip to Philadelphia to visit his fiancée. So after the holidays, we'll be back again. So thanks for joining us on Reborn Report. We appreciate all your support. And if you have any questions about tropical fish that I raise, give us an email and shoot us a note. We'll be glad to talk to you about it.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you back next time.
Right here on Reborn Report, where the Word of God will keep you and get you all fired up and get you blessed.
And get you tropical fish.
See you later.
See you guys.
Bye.